What up, everybody? In Power Book 2 Ghost, Season 1, Tasha was on trial for the murder of James St. Patrick and taking the rap for her son Tariq. If you can remember, initially the only reason she got charged is because she tried planting the gun and framing Q. It was around this time when Tommy fled New York to go to California because it was too dangerous for him in New York. Tommy had just killed Joe Proctor, his cousin Benny, who was a mafia capo and a future boss, wiped out the entire Ragney mob, and even had Paz Valdez running around gunning for him. Then Tasha was offered a deal after Tariq took the stand and exposed the prosecution and the defense were working together and also had ulterior motives. It was at this time Tasha was offered to go into WITSEC if she would say Tommy Egan killed Ghost. Even though it was Tasha's plan to never testify against Tommy, but she wanted to go on the run herself. But at the time she was released, Davis McLean, who was her lawyer in this case, made a statement to the press. Now the search for Tommy Egan is on. Within no time, Tommy Egan was already back in New York, shooting up Monet's bar, trying to kill Tasha for snitching on him. To make matters worse, she was even falsely accusing him and snitching on him for something he didn't even do. Keep in mind that they knew Tasha wasn't the shooter, because the shooter had to be between the height of 5'10" and 6'2". Now I know she could have just said she was standing on something because she wanted to look her abuser in the eyes before she shot him. But while Tommy was back in town, Tariq found him while he was visiting Cash and convinced Tommy it would be better for him to fake his death. This way the feds and all his enemies would be off his trail and he could get a fresh start. Getting me to the question, who helped Tommy fake his death? Keep in mind somebody had to get Tommy a fake ID and fake registration for his car. Plus somebody had to help Tommy get away once his car crashed and caught on fire. My answer is Davis McLean, because who else could have Tariq turned to for help? He did not have that kind of relationship with Rashad Tate back then. Plus Davis had a motive for making sure Tommy Egan wasn't arrested. Davis had just lost his assistant Paula after she found out that he was working with Sachs. So since Sachs was about to lose his job, Davis wanted Sachs to replace Paula, especially so Sachs could get Theo released from prison. But if Sachs would have helped make an arrest on Tommy Egan, he would have saved his job as head of criminal for the Eastern District. Now fast forward to the Ghost Season 3 finale, and Davis mentions to Tariq his serial killing uncle, and how Tommy told Tariq not to start a war with the Tejadas. This tells me 100% that Davis knows that Tommy Egan is alive. But Tariq would not mention Tommy being alive unless Davis already knew about it, because that type of information is need to know only, not something you go around casually mentioning. Then there's the fact that we never heard Tariq mention Tommy to Davis in that conversation. It was Davis who brought up Tommy to Tariq. This tells me that when we see Tommy go to New York from his perspective, we will potentially see Tommy meeting up with Davis. Most likely, Tommy just randomly popped up on Davis out of the blue, similar to what he used to do to Proctor. And Tommy would about give Proctor a heart attack when he would do that to him. But Davis isn't quite as scary as Proctor either. But what would make Tommy roll up on Davis while he was in New York? It could be many reasons, possibly for new fake ID, but most likely it will be involving what he has going on in Chicago and how Stacy Marks is building a case. Tommy would want to check in with Davis to have Davis look into whether the Eastern District still thinks Tommy is dead, or have they also got the word that he's alive. This could very well be why Tommy said he's dead in New York to Tariq. Getting me back to the current Force timeline, which is behind the current Ghost timeline. So Tommy has not made the trip back to New York yet. So this guarantees that Tommy will not be arrested before we see him go back to New York. During Tommy's trip to New York, he made a crucial mistake though. Instead of pulling up to New York in a different vehicle to do his dirt, he pulled up in that same old, highly recognizable, old school blue Mustang. And when he pulled up to Tasha's house, he killed 2 marshals in cold blood. So you mean to tell me that there is no New York traffic camera or anything that won't pick up Tommy's car around the area wherever it was that Tasha was staying? So with that said, by the time Tommy even gets back to Chicago, he might already be back on New York's radar. And Blanca and Jr. might be headed to Chicago to team up with Stacy Marks and her task force. There will be an incident when Tommy bumps into Stacy Marks at some point when she tells him, "You've been selling a whole bunch of drugs in my city." But that looks more like she is just pulling up on him like Blanca always does, not actually making an arrest. But there is the clip from the season 2 trailer where it looks like a whole task force is about to bust into the bar that Tommy bought for JP. This is also where they were able to get Tommy's fingerprints, and possibly the only place where they know where to find Tommy. I wouldn't doubt that this is the final episode of the season where they're busting into that bar and Tommy gets arrested. If Tommy gets arrested, will he try to hire Davis as his lawyer? Keep in mind that Davis has already represented Tasha in the same case, so this will be a conflict of interest. This is the same thing that got Joseph Proctor caught up and made him lose his law license, representing both Tommy, then Ghost, and the feds called it a conflict of interest. Will Davis make the same mistake? And one more thing before I go. Tommy Egan and Davis McLean's relationship might predate Book 2 Ghost and possibly even predate OG Power. Keep in mind that Davis and his brother Theo were both in the streets before Davis went to law school and Theo went to prison. So with that said, there's also a chance that Tommy and Davis's relationship goes way back, almost even to the Raising Kanan timeline. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.